Hi, everyone. I'm James Garbutt.
And I'm Denny Dumas.
And this is the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast.
Let's talk about townhouses, guys. Townhomes. Townhomes are the new detached house.
For a lot of people, yeah.
A lot of people.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's usually the first stop for a growing family. It's more affordable, of course, than detached, lower maintenance. Townhomes are definitely a hot commodity in many of the markets that we work in.
And that's why we were going to give you a market update on what's going on with townhouses around Greater Vancouver. And to be specific, townhouse historically is kind of like a row house in a way, although there is a new term for row houses have breached off from townhouses now. Yeah. So townhouse is kind of like, you have a skinny house with shared walls with neighbors on both sides. However, they can also be stretched into stacked townhomes where you have neighbors below you, and in some cases, a townhouse is basically a condo with an exterior door. So there is a wide range of what a townhouse is classified as. But I think to help paint the picture for most of what we're talking about, if it's a newer townhouse, think of like a wood frame, skinny structure with parking on the bottom. Maybe it's tandem parking. If it's a little bit older, it might be a little bit bigger. But we're not necessarily talking about townhouses that are one bedroom, 600 square foot
ground floor
unit. So we're talking about the more traditional, what a first family home might look like for many people.
A lot of people head out to the suburbs to buy their first townhome. Townhomes in the city are expensive. Townhomes in Vancouver are, pricey. They're small. They usually don't have a garage. So a lot of people head out to, some of our market areas, Port Moody, Surrey, Coquitlam, New West. And townhomes have really held their value in these areas. We saw a lot of really exciting price points in places like Port Moody and New West when it came to townhomes in the last 2 years. That really hasn't changed. When you look at, a blanketed general townhouse statement across Vancouver, you're seeing areas like Surrey that have 393 active listings right now, active townhouse listings. Averaging 67 days on market. And then you look in little areas like Port Moody and there's 30 active listings. You look in New West, there's 24 active listings. Yeah. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, we need to acknowledge a few things about townhouses. They're not abundant in all areas. And I guess the timestamp this, we're talking in August 2022. And part of the reason why, we think it's a good time to talk about townhouses is they've been one of the hottest products of this last crazy market cycle. And now as interest rates rise and the market is shifting and slowing, townhouses have a great argument to be the most resilient product type. They're not in a lot of cities that are, say, closer to Vancouver, Greater Vancouver area, there's a shortage of supply. And when you look at the presale options, there's more tower presales close to the city than there are townhouse presales. So there's just not a lot of supply coming either. So, and there's more families coming. So when you look at the dynamic of population trends and more families coming to the market, a townhouse is the only option for a lot of people that need a 3-bedroom. Going to a detached home is much more money. And oftentimes you can get a better layout in a 1,500 square foot townhouse than you can in an old 2,000 square foot home. So it makes sense for a lot of people. But areas like Port Moody are doing something very different than areas like Surrey. And there's certain areas that are genuinely short on supply with no light at the end of the tunnel of that supply loosening, and other areas where there's a lot of supply available and a lot of supply coming.
Right. It's really interesting when you look at the bones of the reason for success in townhomes in the last few years. And James nailed it when he said there's lots of condos coming. There's hardly any townhomes coming. And it's just footprint, right? So on the same amount of space that you could build 8 townhomes, you can build a low-rise, 4-story with 150 residents. So it's just footprint. And we are running out of townhomes and we can't build them fast enough. But a really interesting stat to look at, when you look at detached homes and condos, list price versus sale price, there's a huge disparity right now. Things are selling under asking in many cases if they're not, priced with integrity. But if you look at average list price for a townhome, let's just say Port Moody, for example, average list price is $1,060,000. Average sale price right now is $1,057,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the same. I looked at the same stat,
Yeah.
and I think basically that means that on average, the listings that are selling for pretty much 100% of their list price, and this is in the market shift.
Yeah.
The market rates have gone up. I mean, it could get a little worse before it gets better, but maybe it dips to a 99% list, maybe 98. 98 is when the sale prices are on average 98% of the list price. That to me is like a Vancouver balanced market.
For sure. Yeah.
And this data is saying that even in this environment, August 2022, a townhouse in Port Moody, although it is more of a buyer's market than before, it is nearly a seller's market. It's
pretty neutral, if not leaning
it's in the balance
towards
zone,
yeah,
but it's still skewed towards the sellers by data.
It for sure is. And we're talking about like average 10 days on market for a lot of these places. The ones that have been sitting on the market a bit longer, they're averaging around 30 days on market, but that's still very much a comfortable, healthy market stat to be on the market for 30 days, right?
I think I looked up an example of a Port Moody sale that just happened because it's good to get like the last 30 days of what's going on to get and this is in your zone. And there was a unit in 2000 Panorama up in Heritage Woods, Port Moody, that just sold for $1,029,000. It was 1,465 square feet and it was a two bedroom. So I think that had 2.5 baths. But that $1,029,000 might have been $150,000 more in the peak of luck of February. So it's come off in the neighborhood of, call it 12, 13% compared to then, which kind of reflects, like, I think lending has gotten much more expensive. So it kind of reflects that. But in some other areas, like Surrey, Surrey's a broad area. Let's go.
Yeah, Surrey's big. That's
I have... In some areas of Surrey, there's a much more dramatic change. We sold a listing in Fleetwood, and the place that we sold for just under $750,000. It was a two-bedroom as well, two-bedroom townhouse, newer, around 1,300 square feet. And in February, it would have gotten approximately 15% more. It would have gone for around $875,000. But that's February 2022. So what is that? 6 months ago. It's been down 15% since 6 months ago. But if you look at the February 2021, it was $600,000. So from February 2021 to February 2022, it went up 45%. And then it's just checked back 15%. So we're still, even though our prices, yes, we're not seeing February prices, we are still seeing, when you look at data from a year ago, most of these are up. And the only thing that I feel that the data is not showing yet is a Fleetwood townhouse is likely to correct more if the months ahead continue on this pattern of slowing and interest rates continue to rise than a Port Moody townhouse, purely due to the supply.
Supply is always the biggest thing. It's the bones of what this all boils down to, right? I mean, New West and Port Moody are known for having like practically no townhomes. New West worse than Port Moody. Yeah. There's no townhouses in New West.
Queensboro is loaded with townhomes for the area, but I would say north of the river, there's probably 120 townhouses in New West that aren't age restricted.
Crazy,
and when I started in the business, there was like 70. And 59 of them are in Victoria Hill. And there's 8 more in Victoria Hill, but they have an astronomical strata fee. There's more. There's actually Victoria Hill's filled out. There's probably 90 in Victoria Hill now. So there's not a lot of townhouses in New West. There's a lot of townhouses in, say, Burnaby East, but also we tend to find there's not a lot of action from our business going there. There's not a lot of, I think our clientele is typically drawn to, I don't know, New West or Port Moody, but not necessarily Burnaby East.
The important thing of when we talk about the townhouse story is these families that typically buy townhomes, they have a little bit of extra cash in their pockets because they're almost able to buy a detached house. They're almost they've usually have come from maybe 1 or 2 condos. They've built up some equity. They're ready to get into a family home. So they've got equity. They're usually in, our buyers of townhomes are usually in their 30s to mid 40s. So they have some history behind them, but they can't afford a $2 million house. So usually there's quite a big disparity in the products that's available versus the cash that someone's holding.
Totally. It's been I guess the people that are buying townhomes are usually upgrading. So I guess let's, acknowledging how many people in a down market are going to eat that supply of 393. So 390, Surrey's a big place.
Yeah.
odds are that inventory is going to build up over the months ahead. We're in August. There's less listings that come in July. September is going to bring more listings in. So, I don't know where I'm going with this, but the supply in areas like Fleetwood and South Surrey, North Surrey, it's likely to build beyond the sales eating it up. A common formula, because we sold one townhouse recently, and this kind of just highlights a typical roller coaster price. Let's call it a 20-year-old townhome. It's irrelevant. It sold for, let's say today's August value is $1 million. Last August, it was $800,000. This February, it was 1.2. And this is a real common equation. You can plug in a different price point, but it's been a roller coaster. But it went from 800,000 to 1.2 in 6-7 months. And then it checked back half of that gain. And that's kind of what I'm seeing as a consistent theme in areas like Surrey or probably Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, where there's more townhouses available. It's more of a generic product. That's kind of the roller coaster they've been on.
The roller coaster is a little bit more steep in areas that had further to climb and further to fall, right?
Right.
And then you look at really established areas like East Vancouver. There's only 94 active listings. East Van's a little bit bigger than some of these other areas that we mentioned, not as big as Surrey, but East Vancouver's got 94 active listings, averaging 55 days on market. There's 47 sales in the last 8 weeks, which is not bad. Listing price average is 1.142, so $1,142,000, and the average sale price is $1,155,000.
So the average sale price is higher than the average list price.
Yeah.
So when a client says, "How much do you typically get off a list price?" In East Van, last 60 days,
Nothing. You're paying $15,000 more. Yeah.
This, I could see East Van being one of the strongest markets over the next, say, 6 months or whatever this storm we're about to enter or currently in takes. And it didn't reap as many gains as other markets during the last COVID bump. And even when I look at my past market cycles of, say, 2008, 2009, East Van was the most bulletproof. So East Van,
it was just the most predictable, I think.
Well, there's just so much demand for it. And maybe that's changed a little bit in recent history, but when I think moving forward, I think a lot of people that move further out are going to want to move back in. And East Van is short on supply. And a lot of those townhouses are getting smaller and smaller in the new supply. So yeah, East Van.
If you really dive deep and look at East Vancouver and look at the products that are sitting on the market, the townhomes that are on market, there's one $3 million townhouse. There's several $2 million plus townhomes. All of those are the ones that are just kind of sitting there on the market. Some newer products, so it's a really it's a big variety of what you're gonna get in East Vancouver. But the traditional townhomes like you're talking about, where you might have one or two parking, you're sharing two walls, there's no one living above or below you kind of thing. Those ones are selling. They're still selling, and apparently they're selling for $13,000 over asking in some cases.
I'm sure there's some buyers that are just excited to see this market shift that are ready to buy the next one that comes up. So stronger markets over the last 60 days. This is August. Port Moody, your example of the average sale that took place was nearly 100% of the list price. And in East Van, it was a little over 100% of the list price, call it 100.5%.
Barely 2 weeks on market average.
2 weeks market. So those are not signs of a downward trending market looking backwards. No. And so I guess the important thing to mention here is interest rates could bump up a little more this year. Doesn't mean that all products are moving the same. If another 1 or 2% of rate hikes come, hopefully it gets corrected the other way shortly after. But areas where there's more listings, like Surrey, are going to be far more affected than areas like East Van or Port Moody.
I think it's, a really interesting area to look at is Coquitlam. Coquitlam is a really big established city. They traditionally have a pretty strong market. They've had 48 townhome sales in the last 8 weeks. That's pretty good. Their average list price is $1,031,000 and the average sale price is $1,008,000. Still not bad. Like that's still it's a pretty squeaky margin when you look at it at large. So many people right now are wanting $50,000 off asking for a lot of stratas, and here you're only looking at about a $20,000 difference from list price to sale price. And I think that's a pretty interesting stat, 71 active listings. And that's, Coquitlam does have new townhomes coming. They've got, they approve stuff in Coquitlam. They approve things in Coquitlam. They've got new townhomes coming, and those ones still sell average 43 days on market. So it's a little bit more than, a place like Port Moody, only 30, New West only 24 average days on market for a townhome. So those markets are smaller. What we see obviously is supply and demand. More supply in Coquitlam, more supply in Surrey, but still pretty strong in terms of sale price. Yeah.
I have a little example Coquitlam sale that just happened. So one of the most recent townhouse sales in Coquitlam was at 1210 Falcon Drive. It was a 3-bedroom, 25 square foot place, a little bit older, and it sold for $1.18 million, and it's about $555 a square foot. So that's a good size structure, close to Port Moody, not on the Port Moody side of Coquitlam.
It's right on the border.
Right on the border. And there's not a lot of data of sales. Like, this isn't a complex where sales happen every other month. So there wasn't any February sale to gauge it with, but it likely would have gone north. Like, this went for $1.18 million. It likely would have sold for over $1.2 million in February. But looking backwards, in 2 years ago, it was $800,000. And so it's seen a 47.5%, and this is a recent couple week ago sale, that has seen a 47.5% bump in the last 2 years.
And this is an old complex. I mean, there's no garage. There's a one-car carport.
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge, I think the demand for townhouses has pushed up the price per square foot of older townhomes quite a bit. That just
the size.
People need the space.
Yeah.
And in some areas over there, it's a land play too. But not a lot of people are thinking about that. But there's developers knocking on the door of some of these older townhomes where, your townhome might be worth, let's call it $900,000 as a townhome, but as a development land assembly, it might be $1.2 million.
To get slightly sidetracked for 1 second, just because we're talking about this townhouse on Falcon in Coquitlam, it is right on the border of Port Moody. And man, do developers look at the border of Coquitlam and Port Moody. Port Moody doesn't like to approve anything.
It's an election year. That might change.
Council, if you're listening, it's all your fault.
Step it up.
But they look to the border of Coquitlam and Port Moody, man. All of those homes have been scooped up by developers. They're all, and that townhouse complex is definitely one of them. It's all kind of the strip of Coquitlam that backs up to Coronation Park. That'll be exciting to watch.
Not that I always struggle with where should I buy? Is this going to be the spot? And it's hard for me to say Falcon Drive is going to outperform, Glenbrook North and New West. But it is nice knowing that Falcon Drive is going to be on the edge of an absolute massive future developed community. And in the interim, you have a larger space, bigger townhouse, and more land under that townhouse too. So I pulled some stats that came from the recent Real Estate Board stats package, and just to give you an idea of what changes have happened on a macro level for Greater Vancouver. And so the July sales that took place for townhouses in Greater Vancouver were 43.3% down from the previous July. Now, last July was crazy. It was a hot market, and so it was well above the 10-year average last July. But this year, it's checked significantly. The sales are 35% below the 10-year average. And this, for a long period of time, I think I talked about it in previous podcasts, we were on a 18-month to 2-year run where every month was above the 10-year average, and that shifted a couple months ago. And now we're significantly below. So our sales are low. There's less sales happening. I think we need to acknowledge that doesn't mean that less people want to move. It just means that less people are moving at this moment.
It's rates. It's just rates focused, right?
So I'm saying that because don't wait for the market conditions to 100% change because everyone is going to think the same. Maybe whether it's this fall or early next year, I think those are going to be two great windows to consider buying a place.
Right. We never recommend playing the market ever. We never recommend trying to crystal ball and predict the market. That's just not our jam at all. But don't be the same person you were last year. Don't fall for it. Don't wait for everyone else to get excited about real estate and then you decide to be excited about it.
Take advantage of the uncertain times.
You're smart. You're listening to real estate podcasts, guys.
I might be repeating myself here, but the sales to active listing ratio in July for townhouses was 20% across Greater Vancouver, which is a balanced market, but it is really close to a seller's market statistically. And that's kind of what we're talking about townhouses because it's a resilient, desirable product right now. And a lot of the markets we work in, when you look at the bench price townhouse data of how much it has appreciated in the last 12 months, Burnaby up 18%, New West up 21%, Port Moody up 23%, North Van up 19%, Vancouver East up 16%. I think if we look at the next 12 months, I think Vancouver East is probably going to be the winner on that list, whether it's up or at least down, we'll see.
Yeah.
But in July, 686 new townhouse listings came to the market and 304 sales took place. So even though there was existing inventory prior to that, it's not, call it fall of 2008 or bottom of January 2009 data. This is a far better market in the last 60 days or July than that was. Doesn't mean that it will be next month or the month after, but right now, townhouses are kind of holding their own.
They are, and I really I've always believed in townhomes. I talk about it all the time. I think townhomes are a really, really safe purchase. They're affordable. Anything that's more affordable just means less risk right off the bat. And the fact that there's just a low supply and no sign of that changing.
I think the opportunities here are that take advantage of the next motivated seller in the neighborhood that you're looking for. Port Moody has a lot of great townhouse options. I can't help but think that if an end unit came up and the seller was motivated, why wait? If the right unit in the complex came up. And the other thought I have is if in the Fraser Valley, where it's more supply, there's more opportunity out there, there might be better deals to come, but one opportunity, if you find a presale development where from a developer that's realistic on prices and adjusted their prices, but say this fall there's an opportunity to buy a new presale townhouse, but it's closing in 2 years.
I'm really into that idea for rates.
Well, you get ideally fall prices and ideally 2 years from now mortgage rates. So you're not going to be at the burden of a 5+% mortgage rate, hopefully. And you might get the advantage of getting a product at discounted prices, but also not paying a premium on mortgage payments when it closes. Anyway, that's it for townhouses.
That's it, townhouses.